commitment and passion to provide thousands of families across the state quality K-12 education options. The charter school movement would not be where it is today without you and without your leadership and influence on CSAP. Asking those hard questions, but inspiring the board to be fair to everyone that came before us. And then most importantly, I want to thank you for your friendship. Thank you for those calls that I would make to you, asking you the how and why of issues, and you helping me come to my understanding of different things. And I appreciate that. I appreciate your willingness to always be available. So, on behalf of the North Carolina Coalition for Charter Schools and myself, just wish you the best. God bless you in your new endeavors. I still have your phone number, so just expect phone calls because we still want the charter school movement to grow in North Carolina, and we appreciate it. God bless you, Stephen.
And I just really wanted to take an opportunity to tell you how much we appreciate the service and how aware we are how much is given to the charter community. And now that I've had an opportunity to walk just a little while in your shoes, I'm really realizing how much you contributed. In addition, I learned so much from you. One of the things that you are really good at is being able to explain your opinions, and the way you express it has really been helpful in helping me to understand people who have a different life experience to you than I have. And while I didn't always necessarily agree with you, it was really helpful to be able to understand how other people see the world sometimes. And very often that helps change how I see the world. I am greatly appreciative of the opportunity I've had to work with you, and I want nothing but the best for you next time you return to the office.
Hi, Stephen. I just wanted to say that I am certainly going to miss you at CSAB and seeing you at OCS. And I hope you come and visit us at the office occasionally. I definitely learned a lot from watching you at the meetings over the last few years, and I really appreciated your kindness and your positive spirit every time you came to meetings. And I'm wearing orange specifically for you. This is the only piece of orange clothing I own that does not also include a Florida Gator. So this is for you, and I will think of you every time I'm watching Clemson. Good luck in everything you decide to do in the future, and I hope it all brings you plenty of joy. Bye.
Hey, Stephen. Man, am I sorry to see you go. You don't know how much you've done for the children that we serve. We appreciate you. You've never been before that, and 4 years from now, take care. God bless. Thank you.
Hi, Stephen. It's the from Georgia. I want to tell you how much work life has been. You have been such a helpful person. I remember when I was advocating for before information and time and so comforting. It meant so much to me. I want you to know that everything that you are and everything that you have done for George life and for all of us in the state of North Carolina is not overlooked. You have been a blessing to all of us, and we wish you well in the future. We're sorry to go, but we know after that we will.
All right, Stephen, you know we're all going to miss you on this board. I think that goes without saying. I feel like I might be the person that's going to miss you the most since you and I have been sitting next to each other for so long. I'm going to miss all the different versions of Stephen Walker. I'm going to miss that lawyerly Stephen Walker that will just dig into the governance section and find something like a background check that's not right. It's just buried in there and bring that heat. I think I'm going to miss, probably really miss the preacher Stephen Walker. That's my favorite Stephen Walker, I think, who just brings that fire and brimstone and calls the school across the carpet when they really need it. When it's time, they need to be preached at a little bit. You're the man for the job. I'm also going to miss that Stephen Walker that pulls us out of the weeds, and usually I'm going to say that's me. When I get real dug in on something and things are maybe dragging on a little bit, you're the guy that said, all right, I think we need to wrap this up, chair quickly, and bring things to a close with a little more expediency. I'm gonna miss that Stephen Walker for sure. Most of all, I'm gonna miss your leadership. You've always been there to, whether it's answer the phone and just be a person that I can rely on for advice and wisdom. And you've been a person that's done the work and put in the work. And that's what a leader does. I'm grateful for it. You and I haven't always agreed on every decision, but we've always been a team. And I have never once for a second questioned that your commitment has always been about kids in our state and ensuring that their parents have the opportunity to choose a great education for their children. Those of us that grind it out in schools every day know that our very existence relies on people like you who are willing to advocate and stand in the gap at all levels in our state to preserve the very work that we do every day to ensure the autonomy and ensure the growth of this movement. I'm very, very grateful for all that you do in that regard. So I want to say thank you for your advocacy. I want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership. Most of all, thank you for your friendship. I look forward to many more years working together to ensure excellent charter schools in this state, albeit with maybe not reading quite as many apps. Thank you, Stephen, and we wish you the best.
All right. I'm sorry if the audio was not good for you guys. It was fine on my end. So I will, Stephen, I will send you a copy for yourself. So you will be able to have that. And
improved, Ashley. It was, and it ended up being fine. At least for me, it seemed fine. We were able to hear more clearly as it went on. So that was good.
okay. Did you want to open it up for some comments, I guess?
Yeah, so I know there were a couple board members that weren't able to get a video in on time and or for what reason. And so I know they've reached out and some folks want to share, so I'll just open it up for that. I believe Hilda wanted to say something and we'll just open it up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Stephen Walker, thank you so much for your dedication and commitment to CSAB and all of the kids in North Carolina. When I first met you in 2015, and as we met and discussed all of the many applications that came before us, one thing stood out with me, and that you always found something positive to say about all of the applications. And that to me was a great credit to your character. I wish you well, you and your family, and don't be a stranger. This is Hilda Parlay, your cohort. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you very much. And I know if I ever need anything proofread, I know who I'm going to get to do it. It's going to be Hilda Parlay. You are a master at that, and I thank you so much for those nice comments.
My pleasure, Stephen.
All right. Well, I think if there's no more comments, we're ready to catch up and get back the meeting. Stephen, I think I speak on behalf of everyone. We certainly wish that we could be in a room together and celebrate over a meal. And I'm sure Dave has got a giant plaque for you to hang in your new office. But unfortunately, we can't be together today. But we hope you feel appreciated, because you are so appreciated by this board, by this movement, and we're so grateful for your service, and we're gonna miss you. So thank you for all you've done.
Well, thank you, Alex. And sometimes I thought this day would never come, and some days I hoped it would never come. But I knew it was on the horizon from the start. I knew that this meeting would be the last one. And I just want to thank y'all for your friendship over the years and for the trust that y'all put in me on a lot of these things. Some of the policy work, I think, the work that we've done over the last 7.5 years, charter schools are in a much better position than they were before. I think the law is much better from some of the work we've done on that, from the policy work that we've done. And I just want to thank all y'all for your friendships. And it's been great with you. And you have not seen the last of me, I am sure. I'm sure I'll be involved in some way, just won't be voting, but I've come to be too much of a believer in this charter school movement to not have my hands in it in some regard going forward. So thank y'all again. Thank you for all your friendship, and look forward to this last meeting. I let the leadership know I will stay through till about lunchtime today when we finish up the interviews that we know we're going to do a final vote on, but I just wasn't able to read all the applications for the ones that we may not have a final vote on. So, and I'm sorry for the attorney there, but considering it's my last meeting, I think I'm going to skip the ethics training. Thank y'all again.
Thanks, Stephen. Ashley, I believe we're streaming, so we're ready to get going with the formalities, start the meeting off officially.
Yes, and I've taken roll via the participant list, so it looks like everyone is here except for Joel. So Mr. Ford, if you are on the line, perhaps without your name, just let us know. But otherwise, we have a quorum and we are ready to go.
Stephen, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the mission statement of the Charter School Advisory Board is to ensure the existence of high-quality charter schools in North Carolina. In our ethics statement, board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of the advisory board. If any member of the advisory board knows of any conflict of interest or any appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before this meeting, please state them for the record.
Mr. Chair, Hilda Parlay recuses from Bunny Cone and the American Leadership Academy. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Bruce Brand. I'm trying to get a legal opinion on whether I do need to recuse myself from 3 of the applications associated with Charter 1. And I've not heard back on that. So if I don't hear back by the time we discuss or vote, I guess I'll have to recuse at that time.
Okay. If during the course of the meeting anyone becomes aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring it to my attention, and it'll be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion and voting on that. Okay, so just reviewing the agenda for today, we're going to, we've had our recognition and we're about 5 minutes behind, so we're doing well on time. We're going to talk through some quick amendments, and then we have our second round interviews this morning with Bonnie Cohen American Leadership Academy. We will, and I just want to remind everyone, particularly people that are just waiting on the board meeting. It's very important that everybody stays muted. I can see there's a couple folks on here that maybe aren't muted, so please make sure you're muted. It makes the streaming difficult. So just unmute if you need to talk. And then we'll have a lunch break of about 35 minutes, and we will not be delivering food to your location. And then followed up by one more first round application and our ethics training this afternoon. Any discussion on the agenda or questions?
Chair Quigley, this is Ms. Reeves. I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented, and I include in that to approve the November minutes.
And Mr. Chair, Hilda Parlay seconds both.
Any
The
discussion?
agenda and the minutes.
Great. Any discussion on either items? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. At this time, we'll hear from Ms. Becerra regarding amendments.
All right, good morning, everyone. We have 3 amendment requests today. So the first one I'm going to bring to you is a request from Sterling Montessori. Sterling Montessori is one of our first charter schools. It is operating in Wake County, and they've been in existence since 1997. They are a high-quality Montessori charter school. And a few months ago, I actually brought you their mission statement, and you approved it. They went through a internal strategic planning and kind of review of their mission and vision. You approved the mission, but it was sent back from a state board discussion wanting clarity of it being a mission statement. So they were open and receptive to that, and what they did is just added the phrase, the mission of Sterling Montessori. So you can see here now it's not a very substantive change, but they wanted to kind of work on the wording to make sure that what their mission stated was in line with the heart of the school and what they were striving for. So the final mission that they're proposing is the mission of Sterling Montessori is to create a diverse educational community grounded in the Montessori philosophy and teaching practices that fosters curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking in its students. We empower each student to become lifelong learners who respect themselves, others, and their environment. That is what you can see the changes there, and that is what you would be approving. Any questions? Okay.
Stephen Walker, move we approve.
Thank you.
And Hilda Parlay seconds.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, our second amendment is from the Expedition School. This is a school in Hillsborough, and they are in their 7th year of operation. I've been able to see the school. It's a very interesting and unique project-based curriculum. They serve under 400 students, K through 8, and they have a very high retention rate. So they usually keep almost 100% of their students each year. And they've always had a fairly low economically disadvantaged population. It kind of varies between 2 and 7% each year. They are wanting to implement a weighted lottery to increase that economically disadvantaged population to better reflect the local Orange County public school. So they have set a 5-year goal of 25%, which would mirror Orange County. They have done, they are not an NC Access Grant recipient. They have done this as part of wanting their, wanting to be able to reach different populations and more kids. They've hired a equity consultant that is giving them kind of plans and helping them design their school to better reach all children. They are also looking at all different ways, different funding, different ways they can reach those kids as well. So this is a standard weighted lottery. It would be for economically disadvantaged, and the goal is 25%. Any questions?
This is Lynn. I make a motion that we approve the Expedition Schools weighted lottery.
Second, Stephen Walker.
Any discussion on the motion? Properly moved and seconded. We'll take a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Your third request, this is Aristotle Prep. So we discussed it last month, and there were some questions about the budget and how that would change from the current situation without Charter One as an EMO. And so here today we have some representatives from the board, and we also have, I believe, Charlie French, the principal, who can address those budget questions. They also submitted, I emailed this to you and it was on eBoard, but they also submitted their current budget, which you can see here. And then they submitted a 5-year projected budget with Charter One as the EMO. So do I have someone from Aristotle Prep available?
Yes, this is Siobhan Papa. I am the board chair. I also have brought on with us as well as Brian Payne, who is also a board member. We also have Jasmine Cox, who is not only a teacher, but she's now an administrator at the school, and as well as Kelly Scott, who is also a administrator at the school. Just to give you a background on myself, I originally started working in New York City as an educator. I was at CMS for 10 years. From there, I also obtained my master's from Fordham University in education, as well as my school leadership and administrative degree or program from App State. During the time I was at Unity Classical Charter, I was able to work with Greg Sinders, who is now at Charter One, as well as Brian Payne, who I brought over to join us at Aristotle. I also helped bring Jasmine Cox, who I felt was a major asset to the school at Unity, and helped her come over to Aristotle. Brian has been a major asset. I would like to introduce him as well, and he'll be speaking to you all and helping answer any questions that we have. Brian?
Hey guys. Well, I didn't know. I just want to pop in here, and I think Brian is coming on next, but I wanted to just say thank you guys. My name is Charlie French. I came to Aristotle in June of 2017 as the school's third director, and this is my 4th year there. In my first year, I was tasked with terminating 91% of the teaching staff due to non-certifications, correcting multiple non-compliance issues, resolving 3 pending lawsuits, moving the school to its second temporary location due to its being evicted from its first, implementing a discipline plan to reduce suspensions and to avoid closure by you guys, and improve academics because the school had been a D or an F in its first 4 years. In my second year, all of those issues I just listed had been resolved outside of student performance. So in the second year, we turned our focus to academics. In 2019, the state test revealed the students had met growth in all measurable areas, with performance increase of 12% in reading, 23% in math, and 50% in science, which we were very proud of. For the first time, APA students achieved a letter C grade with an overall performance of 59%. We were finally headed in the right direction in all areas. According to our internal assessment data, we were absolutely certain that our students would have met growth in the spring of 2020, but we were unable to test. You guys know that. The 20-day ADM from 1920 was 136. Student enrollment continued to be the highest hurdle that our school faced, and our board began to seek outside support to increase enrollment. We contracted with Charter One for marketing in February of this year. Just a couple weeks later, COVID-19 presented additional hurdles, leaving the outreach options confined to online initiatives. Between March and July of 2020, Charter One helped APA to have the highest enrollment in its history, and we're now at 180 students. But now with enrollment solid and the financials, you guys have that, an unencumbered cash balance projection of over $493,000 this next June will be the highest fund balance in the school's history. So we have continued growth, continued improvement, but we have new challenges. Our facility is nearly 50 years old, and we've already spent over $80,000 in repairs, with a lot of repairs needed now. We're overcrowded. We can't grow beyond a K-8 school in our current location. And as the principal, I've talked to the board and said we do not need to move to a third temporary location. I think that would cause another loss in enrollment. Parents would start to lose faith again in our mission and vision. We do need a permanent home, and so that we can, I guess, reach the full potential that's outlined in our charter. From that, I'm going to mute myself and answer questions, I guess, when you need me, but I'm here if you need me. And I'd like to turn it over to Brian Payne.
Hey, thank you, Charlie. And yeah, we do appreciate your hard work. My name is Brian Payne, and I've been in Charlotte now for over a decade. I actually went to high school here as well, but went up to Chicago for college for a bit. Worked at Bank of America's corporate investment and corporate treasury for a little over 5 years. Then I took the entrepreneurial plunge, and now I have 4 companies that I've launched and 1 nonprofit. And I'm generally either a CEO or COO of those. And had the privilege of joining the Aristotle board in January of 2019, and immediately saw, one, a very hardworking and dedicated staff. I did hear of some of the historical challenges and basically the fact that this team got Aristotle a little bit out of a ditch, but I saw a team that was wearing way too many hats and was just trying to keep all the plates spinning. A large part of this is due to the fact that Team CFA was supposed to be offering support and finances, and they've just unfortunately not pulled through for the school. And so while I mentioned that they got us out of the ditch, we're not where we want to be, and we know where we're trying to get to fulfill our charter. And really, I see 3 primary areas where we need to focus our attention. We need more students, we need more staff, or at minimum better support to create bandwidth for our team, and we need a new permanent location. We've already had 2 temporary locations, and I think a third one would be a pretty devastating blow to this school and also to the families that we serve, because then it just looks like we're hopping too much. And we were having some enrollment issues earlier in the year. Charter One was presented to me as simply a marketing source. I must admit that my initial response was no, and I didn't think that it was a good idea. However, through some convincing and good conversations and getting to talk to the Charter One folks over there, we went forward with it just on the marketing, and I've been blown away with the results. As Charlie mentioned, we now have the highest enrollment we've ever had, and that's despite the fact we're in a global pandemic and one of the weirdest years I've ever seen in my life. So now looking ahead, Charter One has proven their efficacy and efficiency just in the marketing space, but then we took a deeper dive and learned more. I flew out to Arizona and just saw what they're doing, and really I believe that their model and their methods and their processes and the opportunities they present are truly unique and one of a kind for us. One just analog that I'd like to highlight here locally is Bonnie Cone was looking to launch, and at the time they only had 250 students enrolled, and Team CFA bailed at the 11th hour a little bit on them. Charter One stepped up and guided the school through their launch, and today they now have 750 students with 300 on the wait list. Every school across the country that works with Charter One who's received an academic rating has achieved either an A or a B. So as I mentioned, we need more students. Charter One's proven they can do this simply through their marketing efforts with us. Also, their track record, not only with Bonnie Cone, but schools across the country point to this as well. We need more staff and we need more bandwidth. Charter One offers premium IT, administrative services, HR, enrollment management, and a myriad of other resources and employees and partners that we can work with to help us grow and expand. And then we do need a new permanent location. And Charter One has a facility and design team ready and willing to help us with our new home. They also have access to capital markets and are willing to assist us in procuring the capital we need for our building. So we are supposed to have a full K through 12 charter school with 950 students when we're up for renewal in 2023. We cannot do this without some help. We need Charter One to fulfill our mission and vision for Aristotle. So we are asking for your unanimous approval to move forward to the state board with this amendment request. And I will leave it there, and I guess we can kind of start the Q&A or however you would like to proceed.
First, I'd like to ask the staff to clarify, what is the school's, or someone on the board, what is the school's current growth, what does the current charter say for the student numbers and grade levels and all that? K to 12?
Yes, sir. We have an approved K-12 charter.
For how many students?
950 at build out.
Okay. So this is you said this is like a 300 over your projected. I guess my question for staff is, does it require a separate amendment?
Yes, it will at a later time.
Yeah, I have some hesitation approving this today as part of an EMO contract. I think this is, we only have like 10 minutes we're 3 minutes left on the clock to discuss this. And there's going to be a couple layers of this, and I think just the EMO contract, I think we need to put a kind of further conversation about the longer term plan, so that honestly, it would be easier to approve it as a revision material change to the charter or as an amendment to the charter all at once with the EMO contract, rather than sending it forward now and then coming back. From a strategy perspective, that would be my recommendation.
So quick question on that. I believe that the amendment based off of the projections in terms of growth for enrollment would not be required until year 2 or 3. Sorry, I don't have it right in front of me right at this very minute. But I do believe that amendment for the growth side is a few years away. I don't believe that we're in a position where we need that immediately. Now, I don't know if that changes your position on how to approach it, but I did just want to kind of let you know that, based off of the projections we have, we're not.
Hey, Tom, this is Bruce Friend. I'm sitting on the Trump School Advisory. How are you this morning?
Hey, Bruce, yeah. You're not on mute.
And Mr. Chair, in between time, Hilda Parlay is recusing also from Aristotle, for the record.
Okay, so let me just clarify. So 950 is your total enrollment. Yeah, so the need for an amendment would be a couple years out. I think that I didn't realize originally that your charter was that big. So you've really just not been able to perform in any way against your target enrollment metrics. If you're supposed
Correct.
to have,
unfortunately, unfortunately, you're right there. We have not been able to, and I would say that for the first time, I think that we're now positioned to where we can start executing on that. It does require Charter One being, part of this equation with us. And so that's what we're seeking, and we are seeking it aggressively because we do want to fulfill our charter and our mission. But yes, the short answer to your statement, or to that is, we have unfortunately been woefully underachieving in terms of enrollment.
And the original charter was with the CMO. It was with Team CFA, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm just going to ask for staff's recommendation on how we handle this.
Mr. Chair.
Alex, this is Ashley. There wouldn't be, I mean, I have not seen a specific enrollment request. So if it's not for, you know, another couple years, there would not be a reason to hold it back because of the enrollment request, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. Yeah. At first, I didn't realize that I had no idea your enrollment projections and your K to 12 was part of your charter. I thought that was something new. Given that it's not. And if there's no, I guess I feel better about it now. I would just open it up to the board for your.
Mr. Chair, so looking at, this is kind of the same situation as you have with Bonnie Cone. They need a little help with enrollment. They need a little help with marketing. This is the kind of thing that Charter One has shown that they could do with Bonnie Cone. And so I think it's something we really should, go ahead and consider and go ahead and approve for this school to go ahead and get started with this so that they can start making the plans and getting this enrollment in that they need. And I think if there needs to be an enrollment request down the road, that's something y'all can deal with. But right now, I think, especially in this area and something like this, I think this would be good. And I know they're giving revenue projections and they're looking out into the future, which is what everybody does. But then you have to adjust it based on what the reality becomes. If you need enrollment requests, you're going to have some automatic enrollment that's going to be available. So rather than get into all those numbers, I think all we really need to do is just approve that they can go in with the EMO. I don't think we need to approve their budget. I don't think we need to approve anything else, just approve that they can enter into this EMO contract.
Yeah, I was under the impression, Stephen, originally that we were adding grades and we were, a school was well under a cap, was capped at a much lower number. So I'm fine with moving it forward, given that it's already a K to 12 with a huge projected enrollment, and would remind the board it's an existing charter. So as you said, the budget's a projection. So I'm fine to support it.
Mr. Oakley, you'll probably recuses for the record.
Yep.
Did you hear me before?
Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve this amendment.
And I'll second. This is Jeanette Butterworth.
Okay, properly moved in second. Any discussion? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
Okay, Jeanette Butterworth,
Aye.
Bruce Friend.
I think Bruce is recused.
Is he recruiting? Okay. Rita Hare.
Aye.
Lynn Kroger.
Aye.
Alex Quigley.
Aye.
Sherry Reeves.
Sorry, aye.
Cheryl Turner.
Aye.
Heather Van Cannon.
Aye.
Stephen Walker.
Aye.
All right, great. It passes unanimously. And Aristotle, we will bring it to state board next month. And then as you are thinking about any enrollment or expansion request over the next couple of years, make sure you're in touch with our office so we can prepare that in a timely manner.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you, guys.
We
I
look
appreciate
forward
you
to
guys.
that Conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving right along here. We're ready for the overviews from Ms. Rackley, so that'll actually put us in good position to start off with Bonnie Cone. Right on time.
Alex, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Would it be possible for us to do these two schools together?
I think I would defer to staff on how the recommended handle should be handled.
This is Dave. I would recommend that you do it separate, even though there's a lot of similarity and it's obviously the same EMO, but I believe you should discuss them and vote on them separate.
Do we have representatives from the EMO in the meeting today?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so I guess if we ask questions, Cheryl, on the first application that might be applicable in the second one, we might not need to ask the same question twice.
Okay.
All right, Melanie.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you, Chair Quigley. Good morning, CSAB, Office of Charter Schools and Charter School Applicants. Welcome to day one of the Charter School Advisory Meeting application process. I am Melanie Rackley. I will facilitate today's interviews. A quick look ahead. We will go over the statutes, governing policies, review the application process, and then I will provide application updates and then allow for questions and or closing remarks. Quick reminder, slide 2, charter schools are public schools of choice, authorized by the State Board of Education, operated by independent nonprofit board of directors. State and local tax dollars are the primary funding sources for charter schools, which have open enrollment and cannot discriminate in admissions, associate with any religion or religious group, or charge tuition. Charter schools operate with freedom of the regulations that govern district schools, yet charter schools are held accountable through state assessment and accountability systems. Slide 3, please. Let's see. Okay, so here we have the CSAB duties. Quickly look at the advisory board. The following duties is to make recommendations to the State Board of Education, adopt rules regarding all aspects of charter school operation, including the timelines, the standards, and the criteria. They monitor charter schools and obviously approve applications, and then they assess for any grounds for revocation of charters. Further, CSAB duties are to review applications, which we're going to do today, and then make recommendations to the State Board for final approval of charter applications. Further, this also includes renewal of charters, non-renewal of charters, and then the revocation. And then undertake any other duties assigned by the State Board. Okay, and here we have the delineation of duties split between the advisory board and the Office of Charter Schools. And so just want to call your attention to the right side, the right column here. As I conclude, you'll see that CSAB is charged with making one of 3 recommendations at the close of the interview process. So the choices are: you either advance to the SBE for approval, hold over for round 2 interviews, advance to SBE for denial. And so if the round 2 interview is selected, then those 2 choices then are advance to SBE for approval or advance to SBE for denial. Thank you, Ms. Becerra. Okay, and just the county distribution, here we have the applications across the state. You'll see the numbers by county. That's the number of applications that were received. And then today we're going to hear from Jordan Lake Charter, Olivia Williams, American Leadership Academy, Pathways in Education, North Carolina, the School of Stars at Barber Scotia, and the Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy. The 2 in red we will hear from this morning. They are second round interviews. And then next month we will hear for round 1 interviews from New Haven Global Academy, Oak Hill Charter, Dogwood Classical Academy, and Wayne STEAM Academy. And then the round 2 interviews are obviously TBD based upon this month's actions. That'll be to be determined. Okay, and so quickly, what you see right here is today's interview process. I will do a 5-minute introduction of each school, followed by opening up the floor, allowing the applicant board to provide introductions and opening statements for 10 minutes. Then we'll have a full CSAB discussion with questions for approximately 25 minutes, and then the applicant closing statement will be 10 minutes, and then full CSAB will deliberate regarding moving the applicant to which phase of the process, and this will be for 10 minutes. Okay, so we have here Bonnie Cone is up first, and we have the map that we used from last month. Bonnie Cone slated to open in Mecklenburg County in year one. They're slated for K-10 with 1,525 students. Year two, 1,725, K through 11. Year three, K-12, 1,925. And then year four, again, 1,925. Year five, K-12, they'll have the same amount, 1,925 students is their projected enrollment. They will provide lunch services to students through the National Lunch Program. Transportation is also will be provided. They will use a weighted lottery. The facility, no. The LEA impact statement, no. And repeat applicant, no. And obviously, the EMO that they're using is Charter One, who is on the call today. And the completeness, the application is complete. So without further ado, I will open up the floor to Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy, their board. They will have 5 minutes to complete their opening statement.
Ashley, are you giving it to me now? I'm Marty McCarthy.
Yes, sir. You may start your opening statement.
Thank you very much, Ashley. Good morning. My name is Marty McCarthy. I am the board chair for Bonnie Cone Classical Academy and the board chair for our proposed charter school, the Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy. With me this morning are Brian Puckett, Judy Russo, Megan Tan. We expect Dr. Crystal Brown to join us shortly. She's in the midst of something she could not avoid, and as soon as she gets off of that, she will join us. And Mr. William Mills, Stephanie Newborough, another board member, is teaching today and cannot leave her classroom. And one of our board members, Byron Grimmett, just moved to the mountains and is withdrawn from the board. And as you heard me last time we spoke, we are seeking a replacement for him right now. We also have Joan Roman and members of Charter One are attendant in this meeting with us. We appreciate the opportunity to have further conversation this morning about our application for Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy. We appreciate the input we received from the Charter School Advisory Board last month and have worked to revise our budget to address all of your concerns. We added food service to both the revenue and expense side of the budget. We increased the number of buses to 6 in year one, 8 in year two, 10 in year three, and we will continue to add buses each year as we determine the need to serve our community. We will use a weighted lottery and will reserve up to 40% of our seats for educationally disadvantaged students. We have revised the budget to provide more support for educationally disadvantaged students. We added a social worker, a school nurse, a community outreach coordinator to the budget. We added food service and additional transportation so that these will not be a barrier to attendance or student learning. We have 5 instructional support personnel and a dean of students in our budget. We are committed to intentionally market to the educationally disadvantaged students. I have been personally working with Greg Jackson, who leads an entity known as Heal Charlotte, and other leaders in the community so that we will have wide and deep impact to those that are educationally disadvantaged. We have shown our commitment to serving all students in the opening of Bonnie Cone Classical Academy. We opened last year with 240 students. This year, our state-approved ADM is 600 students, yet we enrolled 750 students in grades K through 7 and have an additional 300 students on the wait list, even though we are not fully compensated for those students. Our desire to serve overcomes any other consideration. To give you a better idea of students we serve, our community eligibility for federal programs is 46%, and we have 56% non-white students in Huntersville. Before I conclude, I want to give you an idea of our journey. The board first applied for Bonnie Cone Classical Academy in 2015. We were denied on our first try. I had to rebuild the board. We came back and were approved in 2017 to open in 2018 with 207 students in grades K through 2. We were approved as a K-6 charter. We had no transportation in year 1 and contract transportation in year 2. We budgeted to serve 15% of our students free or reduced lunch. We didn't have a nurse in our budget. We didn't have a social worker in our budget. We didn't have a community outreach coordinator in our budget. We didn't have a dean of students in the budget, and our proposed facility was to be leased from the Shriners. Our first charter amendment requested a 1-year delay. Our second charter amendment revised our enrollment, revised our location, expanded to grades K-8, and hired Team CFA as the EMO. Our third amendment added the weighted lottery and hired Charter 1 to replace Team CFA as our EMO. Our original charter had us enrolling 345 students in the year 2021, which we're in now, in grades K4 in a facility near UNC Charlotte. It did not include an EMO. Reality is we have 750 students in this academic year in grades K through 7 in a brand new facility in Huntersville. I say all of this to say that we wrote in our original application, what we wrote in our original application and where we are today is very different. We are a board that will not ever, ever give up. We are a board that understands the need to be flexible to pursue our mission. We are a board better prepared to open Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy than we were when we were granted a charter for Bonnie Cone Classical Academy. We will not disappoint you. Before you is the application for Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy, a K-12 charter school that is proposed to open in the fall of 2022 with 1,525 students. The school will grow to 1,925 students in the K-12 years. Our parents have expressed interest in an expansion for a high-quality high school option. We do not have enough room to expand on our current site. Bonnie Cone Classical Academy will serve as a feeder school for Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy. We will also pursue articulation agreements with the other charter schools in the area that do not have the high school option. We have been aggressively marketing Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy and have over 1,000 families on the interest list representing over 1,500 students, and we are 21 months away from opening school pending the approval of our application. Since the last Charter School Advisory Board meeting, our interest list has grown by 75 families, representing another 110 students. Charter 1 will serve as the EMO for Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy. Our board will govern both Bonnie Cone Classical Academy and Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy. The K-8 curriculum will be the same for both schools. We're excited to offer a full high school experience that includes entrepreneurship, leadership, financial literacy, performing arts, visual arts, and a full athletic program. To offer the full high school experience is expensive, and we need the benefits of the economies of scale that a student body of this size will provide. We seek to join the company of successful charter schools in the area such as Lake Norman, Pine Lake Prep, and Community School of Davidson. Huntersville is one of the fastest growing communities in North Carolina. Please remember the United Nations World Population Study 2 years ago said Charlotte will be the fastest growing big city in America for the next 2 decades. And according to all the developers in this region, Huntersville is the fastest growing of the communities around Charlotte. In our experience with Bonnie Cone Classical Academy, Charter 1 has provided support over and above what we expected. They provided curriculum at little or no cost. They provided furniture and technology for pennies on the dollar. Charter 1 has provided amazing marketing support and has been the engine behind our phenomenal growth. Charter 1 will not get paid until the school can afford it. Charter 1 provided all of these services and were not paid a penny in the last academic year. They are invested in our success and even provided services prior to the State Board of Education approval. We have engaged the support of a developer that is committed to providing the financing for up to $35 million for a 140 to 150,000 square foot facility. The developer has engaged the services of a commercial real estate broker, and they have identified potential sites. Upon approval, we will enter into a contract for a 35 to 40 acre site for our K-12 campus. We were awarded the NC Access Grant for Bonnie Cone Classical Academy and plan to apply for the Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy as well. We conducted a weighted lottery and offer food service and provide bus transportation. We intentionally marketed the school to educationally disadvantaged students. We were successful in recruiting 56% non-white students. I'm proud of the diversity and of the experience of this board. We have grown tremendously since being approved for our first charter school. We experienced a delay, lost our initial developer, lost our charter management organization, and opened in temporary facilities with a smaller student body than our budget needed. This year, we've had to further modify our plan in the face of COVID. And yet, with all of these obstacles, our student and family engagement is exceptionally strong. We're ready to govern Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy and ask for your approval to send our application to the State Board of Education. We appreciate the opportunity to share information and answer questions during this interview. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that that's time allotment for your statement about, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll just turn to the board and our board, and are there some specific areas that you would like to start in terms of questions today?
Alex, I'd like to make a comment and I have a question. My comment is, Mr. McCarthy, that is a phenomenal opening statement. I was really pleased to see the changes that you made in such a little short period of time and how thoughtful they were towards making sure that you have the infrastructure in place to support the students that you are seeking to have. My question would be, where in Huntersville are you guys looking to go?
I'll have to ask your board attorney, are we allowed to disclose that? I think we're not allowed to discuss. It's strategically sensitive to the needs.
Okay,
beyond that, I don't know if I'm allowed to discuss that in open meeting.
Can you give me a general area of Huntersville?
We would be heading a little more north.
Than where you are now? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Heather Buncannon. Mr. McCarthy, I echo what Cheryl said about your opening statement. You did a great job of addressing our concerns from the last meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can you give me, just kind of piggybacking on Cheryl's comment or question, can you give me an idea of the distance away, just in general, like 10 miles?
We're looking at 8 to 10 miles.
Okay.
But that's general. I'm being very general with you.
Okay, and a follow-up would be, of the families that you have currently on your interest list, how many of those will pull from current Bonnie Cone or other charter schools? So it's kind of like double dipping, because it is going to have a high school and pull all of their kids from that current charter school or maybe Bonnie Cone. Do you have any indication of that?
I do. I, as a board member, have not gone deep into those numbers. Let me ask, may I turn to Joan Roman, who knows these numbers more closely than I do? Is that fair?
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry, I need to unmute and turn my camera on. Good morning, this is Joan Roman. So we definitely will pull our current students that are in the 7th grade that would be entering into high school. When we look at sibling connections, a high percentage of our current middle school students do not have siblings enrolled at lower grades. And so when we look at those numbers that we're looking at, I would say that 200 of those students are coming from the current school. That isn't to say that there wouldn't be more. However, with the growth in this area, I am confident that we're going to see additional applications, because even the The mayor of Huntersville has done a study recently saying that we'll go from 68,000 to 84,000 households within the next 10 years. And with that, we're seeing a huge influx of students.
Let me add, in part of our research before we determined to go to the Eastfield Road area where we are now located with Bonnie Cone Classical Academy, I met with developers in the region. Alan Tate is the largest real estate sales agency in the Carolinas. I met with his development officer. He sat down with me and said the fastest growing area in all of North Carolina is up and down Eastfield Road. That's why we targeted Eastfield Road. We were able to find a location, and that's why we have the school where we have it. We are mindful of the concerns. We meet with the people that can help us be very careful in where we select so that we do not intrude upon other schools, but hit our needs. Thank you.
Heather, can you revisit the EDD numbers currently at Bonnie Cone, the original Bonnie Cone?
The original Bonnie Cone, right now, we have, let me restate that sentence. To give you a better idea of the students we serve, our community eligibility for federal programs is 46%, and we have 56% non-white students.
You have 56% non-white students, but are you saying that that represents 56%? So I guess just EDD. What's your free and reduced lunch population at Bonnie Cone Original?
Joan, I'm going to again turn to Joan and ask her for answering that more specifically.
Yeah, so we're looking at 20, last year it was 28%. This year we're looking at 30% currently. And I'll be quite honest and transparent here with a number of our students learning virtually. So we have 750 students and approximately 200 of them are learning virtually. And I don't know if other schools are challenged with the same thing, but we're not getting the applications as quickly from our at-home learners, although we're reaching out in multiple ways. So that number is probably not as clear as it should be, but we're right at 30% EDD population.
Thank you, Joan.
What's your goal for EDD at both schools, actually?
Very simply, to increase it to serve the underserved.
But
The
what
percentage
did you put in
we're
your,
looking at is 45%.
at both schools?
At both schools over a 5-year period. Yes.
Okay.
Follow up, can you speak to, Heather Buncannon, can you speak to specifically some of the marketing approaches you're going to take to ensure that you're going to be able to provide access and opportunity in terms of, you know, whether families can hear about this option and choice?
Which one of our board members would best to handle that? I know what I do personally, but we do a lot of marketing as well that is targeted marketing through social media. I mean, I go and meet in communities and talk with leaders, so.
Yeah, Marty, I was gonna elaborate on that. You know, Megan and I, when we did start up Bonnie Cone Classical, we did go out into those communities and we offered to have info sessions within the community. We offered to set up bus stops. You know, we told them all the strategy that we had with the community. I think also it would be wise to bring Charter One in to elaborate on the marketing, the specific marketing outside of Facebook that we are trying to do to get the EDS students and to reach out to them.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Charter One. You know, we've heard a lot about their marketing prowess and just even in this meeting. So I'd like to earlier in the morning. So I'd love to hear kind of what their approach is and why they've been so successful.
Thank you, Charter.
This is Bill Guttery from Charter One. And just an introduction, I'm a managing partner of Charter One, but also was the head of school for a Title I school that we started and ran that for the first 2 years. And after 2 years, academically was able to, on the state assessment, become 5 times better than all schools in the county academically. So we have some experience in Title I areas. As far as marketing is concerned, that's my background. That's where I came from in industry, was marketing. And so we have a good amount of experience in that. as far as attracting the underserved, we feel like it's super important to be able to be a community school, to be a neighborhood school. In all of our schools that we run, our demographics of our school match the demographics of the neighborhood. And to do that marketing wise, what we've done is we've gone and attracted those that may not have the internet. So we've done door hangers in neighborhoods, in targeted neighborhoods. We've done direct mail pieces out to large groups of neighborhoods in which we really want to attract those kids to be a neighborhood school. And then of course we do the social media and we do all of the website stuff to make it easy for somebody to get on and to find a way to enroll and to get their answers to their questions. Also, we also sit in areas where we're going to be able to talk to people of the neighborhood. Many times we've gone to the Boys and Girls Club of the area and sit in their lobby when it's time for them to come out and get picked up by their parents so that we can deliver brochures and be able to talk to them about the school. And so we believe those are the kind of attributes that make us the kind of marketer that truly attracts a community school.
And,
Thank you, Bill.
and if I may follow up on that, this is Joan Roman. I think it's also important to know that we, because we offer cluster bus stops, we are marketing in neighborhoods that are typically underserved. So that community piece, we go as far from Huntersville down to inner city Charlotte to pick students up that are coming to our school currently at Bonnie Cone Classical. And so we rely on some word of mouth with our families who are happy with us. And most of them, I mean, the feedback we've gotten has been very positive to help market in their neighborhoods where they want to see their children come. So it's not just a community school in the terms of this is where we're situated, but we're looking at that greater community and how we can go and strategically target in neighborhoods that are typically underserved.
Can I ask just while with the EMO and Joan on the while we're in the mix, just about the structure of the two schools. So Joan will become a full-time employee of Charter One, is that correct? And then there'll be two principals that are on the school's budget, but Charter One will pay the salary of Joan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's helpful. So Joan will be able to, so essentially you have two principals that are hired on the school's budget, but Charter One is absorbing the cost of her salaries, and then she'll be able to support those other principals?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then just a follow-up kind of related to staffing for Joan. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of instructional coaching support or outside of, it looks like there's two assistant administrators, but it's a pretty sizable school. Can you talk to me about the instructional coaching and teacher development model? Is that something that the EMO provides? I know the EMO probably provides PD, but I'm thinking more about, you know, taking teachers that are new and developing them, or teachers that need more support.
That's Joan's stellar. She's stellar in that area. Let Joan answer that directly, please.
So I'll speak from experience of what we've done here at Bonnie Cone, because we do have a number of beginning teachers that started with us here. And so we have an instructional coach within our framework, and we also have a beginning teacher support coach. So in year one, we contracted with the UNC Beginning Teacher Support Program. In year two, it was more economically advantageous to bring in a full-time employee to do that support work here. So when you look at that academic support line item that we have, that's one way that we're trying to provide opportunities to cover teachers' classrooms so that we can engage them with professional development when it makes sense. We do utilize the NESIS program, which does have some embedded professional development for teachers within there. We have job embedded professional development through our staff meetings, and some of those are teacher led and some of those are leadership team led. And so we would look for some of those models. And then Charter One is also developing their Charter One University, which is a way to build leadership growth from within. So to be able to take lead teachers or lead administrators and have them attend those so that we're developing that school leadership within and that coaching and mentoring capability.
And just, okay, thank you. So just to clarify, so you use some of the kind of general academic support that's in the budget to pay contracted staff to do coaching. Am I understanding this correctly?
No, when I said the support or the support staff or the academic support staff, when you have additional individuals who are able to do small group instruction, sometimes that frees up your instructional staff to do peer observations or to collaborate with other schools. And like I could send a teacher to another school to see great teaching that's going on. If we're going to partner with, the like of Aristotle, if you will, if they're coming on board, to be able to go and see what their teachers do well, that academic support staff helps us because they know our students and know the needs of our students. We do look for other funds, and I know that Title I funds are to support the academic need of students. Title II funds are utilized to support academic growth or understanding or professional development for our teachers. And so we look at those funds to bring in, whether it's the UNC Charlotte. This year, we were just able, with the increased enrollment, to create another position. So we will look at the needs of our staff and the needs of our student to determine in years 2, 3, and 4 what additional professional development we need outside of what we're providing in year 1.
So I have a couple follow-ups. I'm going to just hit them and then you can kind of talk to these. So first one is, we essentially Charter One's talked about, they have successful schools in Arizona. Like, is there any collaboration going on with those schools? And then just from your perspective, you kind of talked about, being able to respond to needs. One of the things with an EMO or a CMO is how effective is the EMO at, because sometimes EMOs or CMOs, they have one way that they want to do something. What has been your experience working with the EMO in, allowing flexibility for school-based leaders and for the schools to respond to the instructional context and the community context that they're in? What has been your experience? And then, what's something that you've liked about working with this EMO? What's something that, blows and grows? What's something that they can do better?
Thank you. Go ahead, Joe.
Let me answer that first question about collaboration. So the benefit of being part of a larger network of schools is that we can collaborate. So currently we have a challenge with our math scores. If you look at historic test scores of the students who have come to us, math is a greater area of need than English language arts. They're both a need, but so I reached out to the ed team at Charter One and said, is there a way for our teachers to collaborate through your PLCs? And so our math teachers are able then to join the PLCs with the Arizona team because we're using the same curriculum to provide best instructional strategies. So that's one way in which we are collaborating. What have I liked about it? This is the third EMO that I've worked for, or a fourth if you include Team CFA in there for the period of time I was with them. And what I find is they're very responsive to my needs. If I pick up the phone and I call and I say, I need something, or I need direction, or I need guidance, or we need professional development, they're extremely responsive. I have not heard from them, like I have other EMOs, this is not our model, this is not how we do it. What I've heard is, that may not be our typical model, but if that is what you need, let's talk about how we make that happen for you. So I really feel as if they respect the relationship that I have with the board of directors and the concerns that we have specific to our school, and they adjust the support necessary. In terms of a grow, I think as we are growing in North Carolina, having more boots on the ground in a state office is going to help in the turnaround for services. But that is, I'm really stretching here to look for things that we need. I would say they have the resources. Sometimes I just don't know the question to ask. And so having the relationship that I have with the Charter One folks that are on the ground in North Carolina really has been helpful in me being able to ask questions and get to the question that it is that I need to ask so that we can get the support that we need. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. Is on that, and this is, I guess, for the EMO, kind of two-layered question. One, how many staff do you have, as Joan said, boots on the ground in North Carolina now? What's the growth plan for the next 5 years? And then just at a broader level, Charter One is essentially, we have two schools in front of us for application. We have Aristotle for the EMO contract, which we just approved, where you'll be responsible for a school that will eventually be over 1,200 students. Wake Prep's in the pipeline. Put all these schools together, you're talking about the equivalent of a school district in the state, size-wise, relatively small school district. This is should these schools move forward, it'd be a network of schools under your management in the state. So what's the pitch that EMO has to make our state that, this is something you're going to be able to do at a high level, at this scale, and this quickly?
As Bill Guttery gets online to respond to you, let me tell you that one, I've examined them. They have the balance sheet to stand behind this. They have an extensive staff. And I think I see their management leadership at the school as often as I am there. They're in and out of North Carolina constantly. When we signed up with them, we were up against the wall, but we still looked deep, and they are very mission driven. They put it on the line, indicated by the fact they absorbed all of our costs in year one without taking a penny, and continued to provide services that were over and above. So let me turn to Bill Guttery now.
Hey, Marty, thank you. And you're correct. It's interesting, Alex. Your question is really awesome. We have 10 people in the southeast part of the country to cover those schools just in person that are living there. And then we've learned something very important from this pandemic, and that is that you can do a lot virtually. And we have been able to develop, like the conference room you're looking at, and other areas where we can truly get in front of a ton of people and really deliver messages that are meaningful and powerful and that really impact the school. We have a staff of 12 people in our academic team here in this building where we're sitting that are ready to and standing ready to help those schools. At 11 o'clock, in just 45 minutes from now, there's 6 of us getting on a plane heading your way to handle stuff in North Carolina. So we're laser focused on what needs to be done. And I think as Joan's experience has been, it is about the kids, and we care about the families, and we care about the level of education that we're giving to families. When you have a K-12 experience, you're giving families the opportunity to learn the discipline and learn the culture early. And then when they take that into a 7 through 12 or a 9 through 12 environment, they're prepared and they have much more success. And that's what we've found as we've transitioned into this. And so we're excited about North Carolina. We love North Carolina. We're involved, and we're excited to take it one step further.
Hey, Bill, if I might add, this is Bob Plowman. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for Charter One. Charter One has grown from a personnel standpoint about 30 or 40 employees in the last 3 years as we've seen our enrollment grow here in Arizona. And as we started to make investments in North Carolina, we have a facility here where we probably have about 80 professionals, including some of the professionals that are with some of our schools so that they can be embedded and be close with us. We have them with space here. We expect, as you noted, Mr. Quigley, that the growth plans in North Carolina, they're big, and we think there's an opportunity there to provide better educational solutions. And I continue to see the opportunity for us to put boots on the ground 1 year out and 2 years out. Every time I go out to North Carolina, it seems like we have a tour of commercial properties and places where we think, where do we want our facilities to be, and how can we be located in the right spots with with people that are physically going to be North Carolinians, either are already North Carolinians that we need to bring on board, or that we need to permanently move employees out there. And we will make those commitments to have the right people in place. The benefit of being able to put those boots on the ground is that we already have facility here and the resources in Arizona to go help those development pieces on the ground in North Carolina go more smoothly.
And our vision for the future, Alex, is that we would have an office like this in North Carolina with 50 people to service that area. But you have to scale, of course, and you can't take 50 people out there for 700 students. You have to scale it, and we know how to do that.
Alex, I was going to add real quickly, Alex. One of your questions was their flexibility. They wanted to present something to the board, and I said, no, don't present it that way. You have to handle it differently. And they listened and went to work and did it right. When they came on board with us, even though we were up against the wall, I said, Joan Roman is a non-negotiable. She's excellent. She knows how to build and grow strong schools. We want her. They said, we agree. They've been very cooperative every inch of the way and very supportive, usually out in front. Thank you.
Is there a target student population and companies and organizations like yours that are successful generally plan things out in the future and think about the scale, the right scale, the ideal scale where you gain those economies of scale like you were talking about, are able to leverage the collaboration that can happen when you have multiple schools, and then we're doing the same things over and over again, and you can do them quicker and better for multiple schools. Do you all have a projection? And this is again more for the EMO. Do you have a sense of what that looks like?
Alex, I could take that as well. I think Hey, Alex, this is Bill again. Not unmuting.
Can you hear us?
We can hear you. I can hear you.
That's what happened.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So yeah, our sense is that we want to grow smart, and we want to grow where we're needed, and we want to be able to scale properly so that we could do it in a healthy way. And so we're going to go where we're wanted, we're going to go where we're needed, and we're going to scale the way it makes sense. We're not looking to grow too fast. We're just looking to do it smart.
And Alex, I might add to Bill's comment. You may know before I put together Unity Classical Charter School in Bonnie Cone, I put together 5 private schools in Charlotte, the first being Trinity Episcopal, and I intentionally put it in an underserved community so that it would receive children from all of Charlotte and not just the privileged parts of Charlotte. I have a group in East Charlotte that is in a very, very needful area, knocking on my door and asking, for me to help them put together a board and grow a school. There are similar such groups that knock on my door just because I've done this around Charlotte for a number of years now. Thank you, sir.
I know I've been asking a lot of questions, trying to get out some of these questions that I think will serve us in the next interview as well. So just want to also take a moment to pause and stop talking myself and open it for other charter school advisory board members, and also ask Ashley for a time check for we need to give Charter One an opportunity for their closing statement before our discussion.
Alex, this is Sherry. I think we're at our time, but I did have a few follow-up questions. One from Ms. Rollman. On the budget, it shows instructional support. Are those the part-time positions that you're speaking of that would cover down for your regular classroom teachers so that you can do training or whatever special PD that you needed?
So in the budget, you'll notice 2 lines. There's one for teacher assistants, which are dedicated teacher assistants to classroom. The other are 5 instructional support, which are full-time, not part-time, not contracted positions. They're actually full-time on-staff positions. Those individuals will will serve several functions, one of which can be to cover teachers while they are doing professional development or they are doing peer observations. Another function of that is to support children who have great academic need that might need smaller group instruction. And so doing some of that work within our learning labs or within the classroom, or even pull out small group services that those individuals under a teacher's direction can do. So that is sort of a multifaceted role that those 5 instructional support staff would hold.
Okay, and the reason I was asking if they were part-time because I assumed they would be licensed teachers, but they will be more in line with a teacher assistant, correct?
That's correct, or a paraprofessional, that's correct.
Okay, because I knew the salary was too low
to be a teacher, right?
Correct, okay. The other questions, 2 follow-up questions real quickly for Mr. McCarthy in regards to facilities. Mr. McCarthy, your Bonnie Cone Classical Academy, are you in your final facility right now? You're muted, Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you. My apologies. Love to show it to you whenever you'd like. It's a big, beautiful facility at the corner of East Field and Asbury Chapel Road. And it's just gorgeous. We're in it.
And you guys built that in partnership with Charter One, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess my question is for Charter One then. You've just built this facility for Bonnie Cone Classical. You are going to embark upon a building project for Bonnie Cone Leadership. Then you also have the school, Wake Prep, and potentially ALA in Johnston County. And I'm not sure if you're building out for Aristotle also. Can someone speak to me about the capability to handle all these facility cost issues over the next several years?
I know that question was addressed to Charter One, but if I may, Charter One works in conjunction with Schoolhouse Development, and Schoolhouse has a capital structure that is designed to get the buildings up and out of the ground using a leasing model. And then as soon as the school is established and has a partnership, the structure of that leasing model is designed to encourage the school to bond out so that they no longer have capital tied up in that project. And that's precisely what Bonnie Cone Academy is engaged in the $13+ million facility that the partnership, the relationship between Schoolhouse and Charter One allowed us to take advantage of.
To that point, we have grown so successfully at Bonnie Cone Classical Academy. We are already in the process of seeking bonds that will replace the schoolhouse development money and give us a lower cost of operation, allowing us to put more money into teachers and serving students.
Okay, I get what's happening at Bonnie Cone. I really would like to hear from Charter One though, because if 3 more $13 million buildings, that's a lot.
I'll ask Bill Guttery to get on for that. Thank you. Do we have a connection problem with, while they're trying, I presume they've heard you and are trying to get on, we must have lost connection. Mr. Quigley, can you see whether we've lost connection with them?
They look a little frozen right now. So, I mean, I think, and again, Cheryl, that question's probably applicable again. It looks like they're reconnected.
That is a good question. While they're getting back up to speed, we've looked at their balance sheet. They can handle this.
And Marty, I think it's very important to reiterate, it's not just their balance sheet. It's Schoolhouse, which is another entity. And so the administrative function is over on the Charter One side, the development building function is over on the schoolhouse side. Those are separate entities, and they work together as a team.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Heather Buchanan. In my opinion, it is going to be important in the year 2022 to revisit and look at those 20-day ADMs. Let's just assume that these schools get approved in this scenario and look to see if they were able to actually meet those projected enrollment numbers. Because I think before we go on approving additional schools, more schools, we need to see that what they're trying to do is doable.
Thank you for that question. And I'm not answering it directly. I hope they're getting back on. I've seen in the chat box they're trying to reconnect their Wi-Fi. I have been out to visit their schools. They're thriving. They're absolutely thriving.
Okay, can you guys hear us now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you. This is Glenn Way. And I appreciate the question. The question's very appropriate. And let me just tell you that we have been involved from a school development perspective since 2004. Since 2004, through schoolhouse development, we have developed and funded 65 schools, and with a total overall amount of money that we've spent in the last 16 years, we've spent over $1.2 billion. We have access right now of $150 million a year that we have capacity for per year. And so we've done more projects in 1 year than what is laid out in front of us in North Carolina. We've done several schools in North Carolina. We've been involved in North Carolina development for the last 4 or 5 years. And so it's something that we have capacity, we have the capability, and we've done it multiple times.
What is thank you for that. What has, based on your experience and that of the this is kind of relevant to both the facility side and just kind of the charter management side. What have you seen as the biggest differences between the context in Arizona and the context in North Carolina, and how that impacts the build process, the financial implications? What have you learned?
That's a great question, and I'll tell you, there's quite a bit of history in this, and the difference between say Florida and Utah and Arizona compared to North Carolina is they've been doing it a little bit longer, and in some ways the state legislature has stepped forward and made charter schools on equal footing to the district schools, and they're permitted uses in all zones. So from a perspective of being able to get city approvals and to be able to develop schools, they come in first come, first serve, almost move to the front of the development list, and so we bypass months and months and months of development issues and entitlement issues in other states. In the state of North Carolina, you've got a little bit of how it goes depends upon what community you're in, what the full-time jobs of city council members are and planning commission members are, and spouses and everything else. And so if you've got someone on a city council that is employed by Wake County Public Schools, you might have a more difficult time than say in Huntersville. We've had many conversations with the mayor down in Huntersville. He's invited us to come. He says, I want to make sure that we get a school K through 12 campus in our community, and I want to be able to walk that through for you because it's so important. So the biggest issue is really entitlements and city approvals. It used to be 3 to 4 years ago, it used to be the State Department of Transportation was the biggest issue. And the state legislature stepped forward. they passed legislation saying, hey, listen, you can't do this to these schools. If you're going to require that they have to do an awful lot of expenses and a lot of road work, then you're going to have to pay for it. And lo and behold, after that, the Department of Transportation no longer puts the requirements that they used to. And so we've just this year we developed and built a school up in Alamance County, and we got it through, got the school open for day one, and it was perfect. We had a great relationship with the county and with the city. So I think, Mr. Quigley, I think that's the biggest issue, is just the entitlement process.
Thank you. Appreciate the response. We are over time in the Q&A, and I know we will have availability because we have another Charter 1 school on our next on our next app. But I think at this point we want to move this to closing this discussion. And I'm just going to note that one of the reasons I'm taking some additional time and liberty with asking the management group, it's not, we're spending a little bit more time on this app because I think we're going to save a little time on the next app. So just, I always want to make sure we have equity between the time allotments, and that's the rationale there. So I guess at this juncture, I'll give Bonnie Cohn the opportunity to make a closing statement, and then we will deliberate as a board.
Thank you very much, Mr. Quigley and board members. Mindful of your time, I will shorten my closing statement to something very simple. We respectfully ask that you approve Bonnie Cohn Leadership Academy unanimously and send our application to the State Board of Education for approval.
All right, thank you. At this point, we're closing question and answer and discussion from board members. So board members, you're not permitted, board members of Bonnie Cohn, you're not permitted to speak or interject unless called upon. And I will open it up to discussion among the board.
Mr. Chair, this is Stephen Walker. Cheryl had sent that email to us, and dive a little bit deeper down into the into governance and the budget, and I did that. And one of the things that I thought that the board had a really good professional diversity on it. The only thing that maybe they were lacking was a little bit more financial experience, but they have room because I think they can have up to 11 board members in their bylaws. So they've got 8 now, I believe. So I think they've got some room to add that in. I think their marketing plan looked well and good, and I think what we saw, the update that they gave us, seeing that they're making a lot of progress there. The weighted lottery, being at 40%, I think is a very good goal for them on the budget side of things. I think, being in Huntersville, I know that Huntersville is, there's a lot of people there, including a lot of people in the government of the town there that are a town or city. I can't remember if they're a town or a city right now, but that are very, have a lot of desire for a charter school to come in there. And one of the things I thought was interesting with this EMO in this board is that they were checking all the boxes that a lot of times I think we wish that other EMOs would. They're doing the school lunch. They've got a robust transportation program under this new budget. They're, adding in they have the weighted lottery. They have I believe it's a 25-to-1 student to teacher ratio. They're basically doing everything that we kind of ask them to do. And I think it's a very, very solid board, and I think they've got a solid plan, and I would like to see us approve it.
Alex, this is Cheryl. I have to say I am so glad we did a second interview with this group. Last month, I was really apprehensive about moving these schools forward, and I have to say now I'm almost excited about it. I appreciate the opportunity to have heard from Charter One. I had real concerns about the finances and what they were taking on, but they appear to be fine financially and can handle it. They've proven that they can market. You don't go from 200 kids to 700 kids overnight in the middle of a pandemic and not be able to market. Huntersville, I don't know for sure that there's 1,600 kids in Huntersville, but I do know that Huntersville, that the town itself really wants a charter school. So they're not going to have any issues there. Now, Mecklenburg County planning is the slowest people in America, but other than that, they aren't going to have issues with, like they've had in some other places where people didn't want them there just because they were charters. That isn't going to happen in Huntersville. I'm really like pretty excited about this idea at this point, and will support this application.
Mr. Quigley, this is Ms. Reeves, and I would like to concur with what both Stephen and Cheryl said. At the end of last month, I had a lot of hesitation. One, because Bonnie Cone Classical had such a rough start themselves, although I felt that the board was capable, but we didn't know a lot about Charter One. We had not heard from Charter One themselves, but after listening today, Ms. Roman speaking that she's going to be an integral part of Charter One in North Carolina, and the honesty from the partners of Charter One, I'm feeling much more confident. I will say that my hesitation with all of Charter One's projects are just the large numbers. I'm afraid for Bonnie Cone leadership that they'll be competing with their own Bonnie Cone Classical in their lower grades. I know the high school makes sense, but apparently they've had a couple years to go through some rocky times, and they've learned by trial, and I feel like that they are confident that they can take it on. So I will also support approval of Bonnie Cone leadership.
Chairman Quigley, this is Lynn Kroger, and I just want to say that, given all the information that we received today and going through everything, Charter One does appear to be a very strong EMO, and I'm very impressed by this board, and I too am going to support this application.
This is Heather Van Cannon. I'm just going to echo what my colleagues on CSAP said. I was probably leaning in the other direction, given so many questions, and I didn't feel like there was a laser focus on truly and genuinely trying to reach that certain population, that EDD population. But I think that they have, so to speak, put their money where their mouth is on that, and so I'm inclined to support this application as well.
All right. I think that covers the fence sitters for the most part, aside from myself. And I am gonna support this application. I feel good about it. I think it's really important that I've seen and heard evidence that the CMO is going to respond to the local context and listen to the local boards. I have a lot of confidence in Joan Roman. And the fact, whether or not you can see talent is a good indicator of your capacity for leadership. And so for the Charter One folks to see talent and not try to control from a distance, but to see that talent that was here and put a good leader in a driver's seat to take this next step in expanding the schools here in Huntersville. I think that says a lot. And I appreciated the kind of adjustments to the application, just the broader context and understanding of the vision for the organization moving forward is helpful, particularly as I consider the presentation of this decision to the State Board of Education. So looking forward to approving this charter.
Mr. Quigley, may I make a motion?
I was going to make one, or you can make it, Sherry.
Well, Stephen, I shall not let you be excluded from making a motion.
Well, I will move that we recommend to the State Board of Education that Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy be moved to ready to open status.
Here, here, and I will make a second to your motion, Mr. Walker.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
This is Joe Mamoni. I don't want to belabor the vote, but I do want to say I'm very appreciative that we have a group like Charter One willing to make such a commitment to the state of North Carolina in such uncertain times. I think it is unprecedented to see this kind of commitment from any organization, any group of individuals. And the amazing job Joan and Marty and the whole group has done with Bonnie Cone Classical Academy makes me thoroughly convinced this is absolutely the right thing to do for the state of North Carolina and our students. So thank you all very much for supporting these schools. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, we'll take a roll call vote.
Okay, Jeanette Butterworth. Aye. Rita Hare. Lynn Kroger.
Here. Aye.
Alex Quigley.
Aye.
Sherry Reeves.
Aye.
Cheryl Turner.
Aye.
Heather Van Cannon.
Aye.
Stephen Walker.
Aye.
All right, it passes unanimously. And Bonnie Cone, we will include your recommendation with all of the charter school applications in the upcoming months, and we will keep you updated from our end. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so quickly, did you want to take a brief break before we start American Leadership Academy?
Yeah, let's start at 11:15.
Okay.
And we'll add 15 minutes to their meeting should we need it.
Okay.
Or add 5 minutes to their time should we need it. I'm sure, I imagine, oh, we're about 1 minute out, so, and we have the same recusals, I believe, this time as last time.
That's correct.
Okay.
Ready to begin?
Yeah, I think we can go ahead and just get started.
Okay, great. Thanks, Chair Quigley. This is Melanie speaking. Up next, we do have second round applicant American Leadership Academy. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
We have American Leadership Academy. They are slated for Johnston County. Looks like their proposed site will fall in either the 27527 or the 27520 zip code. So what you see on the map is it's pretty sparse in terms of schools in the general 6-mile radius. It looks like the nearest charter school appears to be 10 miles south, Johnston Charter. Then we also have schools like within 10 miles. It looks like Clayton Middle is about 9 miles out. There's Archer Lodge Middle, about 7 miles from the center of 27527. Powhatan Elementary, 7.8 miles. We've got Riverwood Middle, Corinth Holder High, 10 miles out. Clayton High, 8 miles. And then Noosh Charter falls within the 27577 zip code, which is 13 miles south. And it's actually in Smithville and not Clayton, where the school is slated to open. And much like our last applicant, their enrollment projections for Johnston County are identical. Year 1, grades K through 10, 1,525 projected. And then year 2, K through 11, 1,725 projected. And then years 3 through 5, we're at K-12 with 1,925 projected. American Leadership Academy is slated to provide the National Lunch Program. They will provide their transportation. They will use a weighted lottery. Again, the facility is not definite. We have proposed zip codes, and they did not submit an LEA impact statement. They are not a repeat applicant, and they will use the assistance of EMO Charter 1, and their application was complete at submission. So I will now turn it over to American Leadership's board. You will be given 10 minutes to make your opening statements.
Thank you. We'll do a quick introduction. My name's Dawn Carroll. I'm the board chair. I'll pass it to Matt.
Thank you, Dawn. Matt Waring, the vice chair. I'll turn it over to Jess.
Good morning, Jessica White. I'm the treasurer, and I'll turn it over to Frank.
My name is Franklin Jones. I'm a board member, and I'll turn it over to Sean.
Good morning, Sean Ree, and I'm a board member. I will pass it on to Charlie.
Good morning.
And again, I'm Charlie French. I'm a board member and serve as their secretary. I'll pass over to Kelly Scott.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Scott. I'm a board member, and I will turn it back over to Dawn.
Thank you. Well, good morning. I want to begin by thanking the CSAB board for supporting our return for a second interview. We're excited about the opportunity to further prove that our board is equipped to provide governance and oversight to American Leadership Academy Johnston, and that we're well informed about the benefits and the perceived risks of partnering with an EMO such as Charter One. Similar to what you just heard from Bonnie Cone Leadership Academy, we too were very receptive to the advice mentioned during our first interview regarding the budget. We've added into our budget a community outreach coordinator to reach out to economically disadvantaged kids, and a social worker as part of the wraparound services mentioned. We also added more details to the budget about our child nutrition program to show both the revenue and expenses, and we've added more buses to the budget as well. We, of course, will take into consideration any additional feedback you might provide today. The changes included in the revised budget represent the commitment and passion of this board to serve the educationally and economically disadvantaged students of Johnston County. However, I would like to point out that in spite of having our origins from a group of current parents at Johnston Charter Academy, our board is a team loaded with leaders in a variety of businesses, and our experience tells us that budgets are never perfect or 100% accurate on the first, second, or even third attempt. My own personal experience in managing a newly opened facility tells me that adjustments will be required all along the path of the next 21 months and beyond should we be approved to open. Just as in that business, we will give our best efforts to planning ahead, then we will do what we can to save on overhead expenses where we can in order to make adjustments that will allow us to make even more funds available for the needs of our students. We're more confident that we'll be able to make those adjustments by working with Charter One than we would be able to as an independent board. Having worked at large and small companies as a procurement and sourcing leader, my experience tells me that we will see significant benefits from the economy of scale, from having a network of other schools as leverage in making purchases of curriculum, equipment, materials, health insurance for our teachers, and many other areas in operating the school. The list of services we expect to receive from Charter One in exchange for their management fee is quite lengthy. It can be found on pages 17 through 23 of the EMO agreement, and we certainly can go into detail if needed. But at a high level, it includes technology and IT services, grant research, grant writing, fundraising management, coordination of building maintenance and repair, public relations and marketing, including outreach efforts, health services, monthly reporting for the board, preparation of required state reporting, managing the application, lottery, and enrollment processes, managing and supervising PowerSchool, managing curriculum and syllabi, recruiting teachers and staff, including background checks and training, developing board and school-related documents such as policies and procedures, professional development and training, legal and financial services, just to name some of those services offered. And I would just challenge the CSAB board to consider how these tasks and services have been tackled by the individual boards or schools that you've worked with in the past. This board originated with a group of parents from Johnston Charter Academy almost exactly 2 years ago. I personally spent hours upon hours for nearly 2 months researching the options for charter schools, scouring through the websites of nearly every North Carolina charter school in existence at that time, looking at the origins of the schools, how they were run, how many students were enrolled, what programs they offered, and so on. My understanding from all my research is that these tasks that I mentioned would be hired out to external companies on an as-needed basis, procured at the current market rates for an individual organization, or they would be additional responsibilities loaded on the school's leadership or school board members. It was my conclusion that the only way I would want to be involved with a school board was if we were partnered with a management organization. We want our school leaders to be focused on what's most important in the school, that is the students and the teachers and staff who serve them. It's our belief that partnering with a management organization, particularly one like Charter One with a proven track record of serving students well, producing high-scoring schools, producing leaders equipped for their future, is absolutely the best choice for meeting our goal of providing the best educational experience to as many students as possible in a moral and wholesome environment. We've not entered into this relationship blindly or without a significant amount of consideration. What we've seen in person from visits to the Arizona schools operated by Charter One is a program that is replicable, repeatable from school to school to school. We've seen it in practice, and we have every confidence that it will be replicable here as well. I want to wrap up my introductory remarks by noting the impact of just one of the benefits of partnering with Charter One. The most recent totals from our marketing support team show that we have over 1,200 families on our interest list with over a year and a half before our school would open. Our interest list has grown by nearly 200 families in just the past month, and we haven't even begun local advertising or mailers. The marketing team is spending approximately $3,000 a month on various forms of online marketing already, with confidence that our school will succeed. Every time I see parents from the charter school my son attends, they ask me about the status of the charter school application. I'm quite confident we will succeed in reaching our full enrollment projections, despite the fact they may seem aggressive to many. Our county is ripe for charter school growth. The majority of Johnston County schools are underperforming, and beyond our interest in our own school, we're also hopeful that the competition from charter schools will push them to do a better job for all of the students of Johnston County. We hope by the conclusion of our interview, you will agree that we are indeed ready to move forward to the State Board of Education for charter approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, for the board, any questions? Is this a time for us to discuss and ask any questions that we have of this board?
Ms. Turner, this is Lynn Kroger. I just had a clarifying question about the number of students in year one. I know it's said it's 1525 is the total, but when I look at the budget's actually based on 1,600. And it looks like the difference is in 8th grade. So I just want to clarify if it's 1525 or 1,600 students.
The projection is 1525.
Okay, then I think the budget will need to be adjusted to reflect that because there's 1,600 in the budget.
Right, thank you, noted.
This is Mitch with Charter One. Do you mind if I clarify that?
Please.
The 1,600 in the budget, we went with that round number, but 1,525 in the budget is receiving all the funding, but the 75 above that is only local funding, and we do that so it helps with the growth up into the next classes, so we are prepared to accept more students that apply and prepare for the only receiving local funding and being able to adjust for that.
Thank you for that clarification. And any other questions? I have a question. You mentioned Johnston Charter several times. How are you anticipating that you are going to be pulling kids from Johnston Charter?
I would say that there's certainly some possibility that we would pull students from Johnston Charter, in that there are families who are interested in having their children in schools all the way from kindergarten through 12th grade in the charter school. And so certainly there is an attractiveness to having students in the same school system. They would follow through all those years. However, I would also say that we don't believe this would be detrimental to Johnston Charter Academy. What I've experienced there as a parent is an overflowing waiting list that they've not been able to accommodate the amount of interest there is in our county, in our area, in charter schools. And certainly there's a large enough population, growing population, to support another charter school in our area.
Can I ask a question on that, Cheryl?
Please.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Johnston Charter is K-8 only, right?
That's correct. They are K through 8. So it is our hope that we will be able to work with them to create an articulation agreement to allow for their 8th grade students to move into the high school. In fact, that's why our high school numbers are 75 students higher than the K through 8 numbers, so that we can allow for the there's approximately 90 students per grade level at Johnston Charter Academy, and that would allow room for them to move into our school without any trouble. So it's our hope we'll be able to do that. We have had some past conversations just kind of trying to open the door there, and if we're approved, that'll be one of the first contacts I'll be making to reach out and get that started.
And, one other thing, and maybe Charter One can speak on this because I'm sure they've probably done some research, but, I live real close to this area. So this is kind of like hometown for me. I've noticed that, the growth has just been explosive in this area as far as new people coming in. It's just unbelievable in the amount of new people. So, have you seen any projections on whether that growth is going to slow down, whether that growth is going to stay up to kind of help, justify these numbers?
I'll give my personal comment as a resident of Clayton, and then if someone from Charter One wants to follow up on that, that's obviously welcome. I would say we don't expect to see the growth in the Clayton area stop anytime soon. There are 2 large pharmaceutical companies right there in Clayton, both of whom are expanding their production facilities and production lines. They have plans to keep expanding for years to come. So it's not a growth we expect to see slow down. The town of Clayton is in fact working on additional wastewater opportunities to try to support the growth in the industries they see in the area.
This is Mitchell Schwab with Charter One. I can add to that as well. Typically, before we really know, before we move forward with a project of this magnitude, we want to know for sure that that the community can support it. And all the research we've done with ALA Johnston in the greater Clayton area, we've done a lot of schools, big schools all over. And the ALA Johnston school specifically, I have never seen such growth and such interest so fast. For example, we've done hard marketing for ALA Johnston. We really amped it up just over the last couple of months. But it grew to 1,200 households. And based on survey results, that's representing nearly 2,000 students already, and we're 21 months out from school opening. That's something we've never seen before. And typically, for example, with the Wake Prep location, I've done analyses where we look at the growth of school-age kids in the areas, and Clayton is surpassing some of those other areas, which has been shocking. If we go off of the growth trends and how we're anticipating that area to be, we'll need 3 of these schools to accommodate the growth that's coming.
I have a question, Cheryl.
Right ahead.
I kind of have like a couple. So just kind of going on the topic of growth, one of the, when we talked about Bonnie Cone, Joan Roman was a factor there. Charter One came into a existing school with strong leader and is, retaining that person. I guess specific for the board of ALA, what's your plan for, leader recruitment, or for Charter One, kind of talk us through how you recruit, develop, attract, strong school leaders, given that the growth plan is certainly going to require that kind of broader approach.
So I actually think rather than me doing all the talking, maybe I'll defer to Matt Waring on this one if he wants to take it. I certainly could answer, but I'll let you get it to the board member.
I appreciate it, Don, and you read my mind. I'm pretty passionate about the school as a whole, but it's top-down leadership, right? So Charter One for this particular piece, right? So Charter One will solicit resumes for potential directors, principals, and the board, of course, will interview and hire said principal. I'm going to add to that and say that Dawn and I have had side conversations, and there's potential opportunity, and I'm not going to mention his name, but we would like to take one of the directors in Arizona and transport him here. And just visiting the schools out there, the culture and the energy is just amazing. I've said it before. I would like to lift and shift the schools from Arizona. I want that culture here in the Clayton area. So in both cases, it's top-down leadership. We're not going to hire anybody but the best for the director position.
I guess just a follow-up, what does that selection process look like, and how does Charter One support you in that? Do they have, recruiting across the country and into an interview day? Like what does that look like? And I'm happy to have the Charter One folks also answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think the details of what that looks like probably should be answered by Charter One. There is a recruiting process. We would like to pull from experienced Charter One staff if we're able to, but certainly maybe I'll step aside and let Mitch or one of the other Charter One folks talk about the details of the process.
It is Chairman Quigley. With Charter One, I can take that one if you'd like. So Charter One, we hire all positions, and we'll do countrywide searches. So we've recently just brought on a full-time recruiter that will help us identify directors and frankly all administrative and faculty to go through the recruiting process. We'll work closely with the board. So especially as you come with the director, it's been noted, it's such an important position to find the right leadership. So we'll help vet candidates, and then we'll work with the board to make sure they find a candidate that best suits their needs. And we just do a lot of the legwork to help them have the right candidate.
Chair Quigley, this is Rita Chair. Could I ask the chair a question?
Yeah.
Don Carroll. Have you entered into a facility buyout agreement with Charter One, Ms. Carroll?
We don't have a formal agreement yet. We have seen a draft of a buyout agreement, but there's no building to buy out at this time. So formalizing an agreement would not be appropriate. But we have received a draft of what that lease agreement and the details of the bond issue. We have that agreement in hand, or a draft of that agreement in hand.
Okay, so your corporate lease funding is purely for rental of the facility. What's in the budget? 3.3 annual.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. This is Jessica White, the treasurer. So the amount that's currently listed in the budget is the facility lease amount. And once we undertake the buyout of that lease through the bond issuance, we would see some significant cost savings there. So the draft of the buyout that we've seen from Charter One allows us to buy out the facility between 18 and 48 months of the lease commencement at 122% of the cost. And so it would be our goal to buy out during that period, because that would allow the school to have the most cost savings. But obviously we'll have to have some good history for the school for the first couple of years related to enrollment. And also we'll want to look at the interest rate markets and make sure we're getting the most favorable interest rates for the school. But it would be our plan to have that bond issuance completed before 48 months.
Thank you. That sounds good. Thank you.
Cheryl, could I ask another question?
Surely.
Could the board talk about the plan for transportation? We're hearing a lot about this, you know, the growth, the significant interest, all very exciting. What's kind of the plan for transportation, school bus transportation in Johnston County, given, you know, parts of it are rural, there's going to be interest probably coming from across the entire county based on what we're hearing. What are people's, could someone comment on kind of the vision behind the transportation?
Yeah, I can take that, and then if anyone else wants to jump in, you're welcome. I think that one thing we've seen in our community, just as a first note, is that there are a lot of families who, in the public school system, in the traditional public school system, who utilize carpool despite the fact that buses are available. So I think that that's something in our community that maybe is or isn't rare. I think that's one factor, certainly. But as far as our plans for providing transportation to anyone who does need it, or asks for it, we certainly will have the buses available. It's similar to what we've heard from Bonnie Cone and others, that we will have community pickup locations. So it won't be house by house, but it will be centrally based, and students will come to a community central area to find their bus ride. Does anyone else want to assist with that question or say anything else about that question?
I just want to pop in a little bit and just say, you know, with my experience with picking up children who do need the transportation, I think when we are looking at bus routes in the EDD population, we can ensure that we kind of go that way first. In my experience, parents who do have vehicles have not had any problem carpooling and things like that in the more affluent areas of people who come, but where I've always put my buses is just where they were needed first. And it's just worked. I mean, we haven't had any problems, and I think that we could do the same thing. I'm certain we could do the same thing in Johnston.
Now, I would just add a final comment that Johnston Charter Academy is operating currently with no buses. And again, they have a long waiting list. So certainly we would hope our buses would be used mainly for the economically disadvantaged students, and we'd be able to focus our efforts in those areas.
Yeah, I know Bonnie Cone adjusted their budget. I think they added more in transportation, particularly in the out years. And I just have concerns about being able to service all those areas at the cost when you're talking about pretty significant, even if you do just based on what you're projecting as your ED students, we're talking about a lot of students. So I think, it just doesn't seem like it's quite there and developed at the scale and that it, in my mind, I'm certainly from a pretty extensive experience running school bus transportation, that it needs to be.
Right. So, I mean, I would just say we did do the same. We added some buses into our budget as well, with that comment in mind. And then I think this is really one of the areas that, as a business person, we can't predict this far in advance exactly what we'll need in the area of transportation. And so it would be our goal to, as we begin to enroll students and find out what our students' needs are, that we would be able to find ways to adjust our budget to allow for more transportation as needed. However, I would again say, I think Charter One has a lot of experience in this area. We visited their school districts, their different school systems in Arizona, and they were running a very similar program there, as far as it seemed the layout of the community seemed a lot like Johnston County, kind of spread out wide. And yet they're using a limited number of buses to reach out to the students who need transportation in their schools.
I guess we're here. I've heard a lot about like their experience and whatnot. I just think you plan for the eventualities. Like it's better to, and particularly something around transportation. If you're applying for the access grant, you're intending to do a wage lottery. There's, the transportation does become the biggest barrier for families. And the only way to ensure that those students have true access is when they say, "Do you have transportation?" You're able to say yes. And I think in reflecting that financially is really, really important. It's like plan for it now if you don't need it, rather than kind of like we're going to put a lower number in, and then we'll try to make it work. I believe Cheryl talked about this last time. Kind of like you put money where on the things you value. I just still feel like that the numbers are low.
If I could add one thing, this is Jessica. One other item to note is we do plan to apply for the North Carolina Access Grant, but that is not included in our budget since obviously we haven't been approved for that yet. But if we do get approval for that, that will go for additional buses as needed. The 10 buses that are in our budget now, we've estimated will be able to service about 30 to 35% of the student population. So we realize that we may need some more. So we're hoping to use that NC Access Grant funding to do that.
So just a point of clarification, 10 buses, that's the $60,000 fuel maintenance on, and I think I remember from last time we're talking about, buying old buses. $10,000 is not enough maintenance if you're going to buy new buses, maybe, but probably not. If you're buying old buses, you're going to need to spend a lot more than that. And then, and I'm just looking at the budget that's projected on the screen. And then, I guess the other thing is, again, it kind of gets to that same issue. It's like, if we're going to apply for the access grant, we're going to put that money to the buses. Like, no, put the money, in the transportation. If that's what we're going to deliver, and we're going to ensure that all students have access, given how great the opportunity to go to a strong school that you've seen, as you've articulated in Arizona, K to 12, make sure that that's front and center. And then, because if they can't get there, we can't educate them.
Yeah, agreed. I think we could have been had a few more buses included. I think the one thing to note is we do still have a surplus in year one. So if we get more details on the student population and there are additional transportation needs, we do have a surplus to help cover those additional bus purchases.
May I interject for a second? This is Sherry.
Surely.
I think what we're trying to say is, we're looking at what appears to be most important. And on the surface, you're saying you want to attract students that are economically and educationally disadvantaged, then the proof is not in the pudding. And so I think that's where the disconnect is.
I think this is Franklin Jones. I think to Mr. Quigley's point, when that inquiry is made about transportation, then our answer at this point can be yes. And then for the reasons outlined by Jessica and Dawn, we will be able to adjust the transportation, make sure that it's available. So we are trying to account for that. And I think we certainly can make adjustments if that's necessary.
So I guess, just a follow up to that, are there going to be catchment areas, or is it, all of Johnston County? Are there certain areas where you're not going to drive to? Are you thinking like, the school's going to serve the entire county, or is there more of a radius around the school? I'm sincerely just asking.
Well, we haven't specifically talked about limiting any of the applicants. I would say in my mind that we want to serve the students of Johnston County. Certainly we wouldn't necessarily expect someone from the farthest reaches of Johnston County to want to go to school an hour away, but if they choose to apply, that's not something we're going to, at least in my mind, we haven't talked about it, but I don't, I don't think we're planning to restrict access in that way.
Are you seeing in the kind of interest, the interest applications or forms or whatever they are that has been, that you've seen as a result of the recruiting that Charter One's doing? Are you seeing kind of a general location? Are they around Johnson Charter Academy, the other charter school? Is there set neighborhoods that they're localized?
I don't think we're asking that question right now in our marketing efforts. So I wouldn't say specifically. I do know what I've seen on some of the Facebook feedback, comments on the postings that we've had on Facebook. There are families in the southern portions of Johnston County who are interested in having access to charter school. We know from our experience at Johnston Charter that families are drawn from all over the place. So we have families coming to Johnston Charter from Knightdale and from Wendell and from areas in Wake County. So I don't think we're looking at just limited Clayton population. But I just got some clarification that marketing's only been so far within 10 miles.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just have one final one for the Charter One folks, and that's kind of, we heard from the board chair about how they identified and did all her research and was impressed with Charter One. What about this board makes you confident that they're a good partner for your organization?
Chairman Quigley, this is Greg Senders. Appreciate the question. I think the first thing is that we have many boards or people interested in starting charters or struggling charters that come to us and ask for help. And we do go through a vetting process. And I think the thing about this board that excited us was they had looked at 2 or 3 other EMOs, and they were familiar with management companies. And they'd been working on this for a couple years on their own, and so they weren't going to take no for an answer. And the other thing was the diversity of the board and their knowledge of the local community, and they had held several community meetings on their own prior to us getting involved with the marketing efforts. I think this board's going to be a great board. It's strong, it's diverse. They did come to us and say, hey, we're a little short in our in the academic area. Do you have anybody that you'd recommend? And we reached out to Charlie and Kelly because of their knowledge and with core knowledge and Eureka Math to be able to help strengthen the board in the academic area.
Thanks for that. I was going to ask how Charlie ended up on the board, and that's helpful. I think it's smart, when you have a network to utilize. I'm obviously a principal, so I'm partial to principals being on charter boards when there's not a conflict of interest, and because those that operate schools have a lot on the ground in the state, bring a lot to the table. So clear Charlie has done a great work at Aristotle and definitely brings those academic chops. So I think that's smart. Thank you.
Alex, okay, I'm seeing in the chat the issue with 1525 to 1600. It turns out that actually the way the budget actually got done, that may not have been the intention, but the way it actually got done is state funding was included, and that's going to be a difference of $664,000. So now I'm trying to see what did they have in yeah, and in year one they had
Year one, they had $277,000 left over.
Rita, do you want to, Rita or Heather, it looks like the two of you have asked questions about that. Can you want to maybe ask a question and then get them to clarify?
This is Heather Van Cannon. It just appears that, I know that earlier we heard from Charter One that the additional students are based just on local funding, but it doesn't appear that way in the revised budget that was sent to us. So given that expanding transportation and making sure that it truly provides access, that was based, I think I heard something about we can, dip into our surplus. And if you do have, you're not going to have a surplus with those funds not included. So I would like for someone to speak to that.
Question to go on that, just that can go in the same thing. Why the calculation to have students that are not state funded? Why aren't you just asking to have the enrollment capacity for the students so you could receive state funding and local funding, since you're just getting started?
Well, I would go ahead and defer to Mitch here, but I'm gonna also comment that we have some clear conversations with Charter One that if we do have shortfalls in our budget, our EMO fee will be adjusted to accommodate till we're able to get back in get our numbers figured out and get ourselves back in a surplus situation. But I would defer here to Mitch or someone else from Charter One to talk about the numbers, the question there.
Don, that's correct. The needs of the students comes first at all costs. And the same thing goes with the transportation discussion that's gone forward, that, if the needs of the students happens to be higher than what we adjusted for in the budget, then we're going to have to make adjustments, and we can lower that EMO fee will be adjusted in order to accommodate the needs of those students. In no way have we ever taken an EMO fee when the needs of the school and the students have not been met. And that was discussed at length during the Bonnie Cone meeting. I know I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but yes, you are correct with that, Don, that adjustment would be made.
Are there any other questions before we have the school give us their closing statement?
This is Rita Hare. Curious, did Stephen get his question answered? Was he satisfied with that answer?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was what kind of confused me a little bit, was just why, you put in here in a budget, I mean, and you've got, local funding, state funding for certain students, what was the decision-making process where you decided you were going to do that?
There seems to be some feedback on our end. We couldn't quite hear your question there, Stephen Davis.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me a little bit better now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. I mean, I was just, wondering what the rationale was for, you're starting a new school to, to say from the get-go, we're going to accept some students with local funding only. Why not request that, either through the Ready to Open process or whatever, that you look at it and say, okay, we've got this many more, so we'll just go ahead and take, I think it was 75 students. We'll just go ahead and ask for an amendment to those 75 students to raise that max ADM. Is that something you would consider?
Mr. Walker, this is Greg Sanders. As Mitch mentioned earlier, we used the 1,600 figure in order to get the 30% growth in the next year, but we wouldn't have a problem in submitting a revised budget with 1,525 students in year one.
I think budgets change throughout the Ready to Open process anyway. So, I mean, I'm, you know, to me, this isn't any kind of deal breaker or anything like that, because I think this school's really needed in Johnston County, in this area that is just, you know, undergoing just tremendous growth. So, yeah, it was more of a question for my curiosity than anything else that's there.
And I think the other thing, whether we have it in the budget like that, like many other charters in North Carolina, we encourage the boards to over-enroll by about 10%, so that 20-day ADM number's coming in where you're wanting to target, in this case, the 1,525, because people change their minds even after they accept a enrollment application. But you're right, the budget will change many times between now and over the next 20 months prior to school opening.
Any other questions? Okay, Ms. Carroll, if you guys would like to do your closing statement.
Okay, thank you. I'll keep it brief. On behalf of our board, I would like to thank you for taking the time to interview us again today. I hope you agree we've provided sufficient evidence to support the opening of this school in Johnston County, and we respectfully request your unanimous approval of American Leadership Academy, Johnston. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, well, this is our time to discuss the application before we vote. Where are people with this?
I mean, Cheryl, I can go ahead and get it started.
Go ahead, Stephen.
You know, again, you know, I looked through the governance and I looked through the budget. You know, the budget issues are not, you know, insurmountable in my mind at all. I think they just require a little bit of tweaking here and there, and then have an EMO that's so invested in it. I mean, the EMO really wants this school to do well. You know, they're putting a lot of money out for a building. They're underwriting a lot of this. I thought the board's resumes were some of the most impressive that we've seen. You look at they've got legal background, financial, educational, business experience, all the way around, very well rounded. I thought that their marketing looks like it's going to be very successful. They've really proven to CMOs they can market in North Carolina. Just living, you know, I drive through this area almost every day. And as I do that, I've never seen growth in any place the way that I'm seeing this. So I don't think they're going to have a lot of trouble hitting their enrollment targets. They had a good student to teacher ratio. You know, I think everything looked good. They're basically doing everything that we're asking as far as the transportation, which can be beefed up a little bit, school lunch, everything there. I think it looks really good, and I think they would be a welcome addition to Johnston County.
Thank you. Anybody else? Cheryl, this is Sherry. I believe that this area is going to be in great need of schools just because of the population explosion. As we learned in our last interview, I was very impressed with the strength of Charter One as an EMO. I'm happy that, as Ms. Carroll said, they had done research, and one, they realized that they're going to need an EMO to assist them, but that they did the necessary research and found what they felt was the best fit. And I believe that Charter One is going to be very involved and supportive for this school. They will need to make tweaks to their budget, and I hope they will stay focused on trying to make this school have equitable access for all students, those that are educationally and economically disadvantaged. Well, I'll go ahead and make comments. I still have some reservations, not reservations that are severe enough that I would think the school shouldn't go forward. I don't have a complete sense that, that there's a commitment to serving economically disadvantaged students. But even if there's not, there's plenty of kids in the area who need serving. I just think we need to make sure we serve the kids who aren't being served other places. But that I don't see anything that would make me say the school should not move forward.
Cheryl, this is Air.
Go ahead, Rita.
I think that the board here, and as well as Charter One, have demonstrated that they're listening, that they're flexible and accessible to what matters in our state and particularly in these communities. So I just expect to see a continued receptiveness to what we want to see and what the community needs. Their budget, I believe their budget reflects actually the conversations that they weren't even part of as they listened to Bonnie Cone. And they want to be the answer. They want to be what that community needs. And so I have a lot of confidence in this board and Charter One moving forward.
I'm going to support the application. I think, again, it seems that the board has done their due diligence, well grounded in the local community. And as Stephen shared, the growth in this area, I've seen it with my own eyes, but also just hearing from the Charter One folks are essentially saying, we haven't seen this type of kind of interest in other parts of the country as well. So I think that all bodes well that the school is going to fill up. I think we, to echo Cheryl's point, we just need to make sure that all students, those that might not have as easy access or who the transportation barrier or whatever might prevent them from going to a school like this, where they can have a consistent education across grades K to 12 or what have you, that they would have that option available to them, and that needs to be prioritized, and we prioritize things with money. So I, just want to see those changes made, and I'm certain that the state board will want to know that those items have been prioritized, and it would behoove you to go ahead and include that, update it. The budget is something that while we need to know that you understand the budget that you've written, but it's also something that certainly in the RTO process gets adjusted and whatnot. Yeah, I will be supporting this application.
Any other comments?
Heather McCannon, this is a very capable board, and I'm always about supporting additional choice in areas where we don't have as much. So I'll be supporting this application as well.
I'll move that we recommend to the state board that ALA Johnston be moved to ready to open status.
I'll second that. This is Jeanette Butterworth.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Ashley, can we take a roll call, please?
Yes. Jeanette Butterworth?
Aye.
Joel Ford?
Aye.
Rita Hare?
Aye.
Lynn Kroger?
Aye.
Alex Quigley?
Aye.
Sherry Reeves?
Aye.
Cheryl Turner?
Aye.
Heather Von Cannon?
Aye.
And Stephen Walker?
Aye.
All right, it passes unanimously, and American Leadership Academy, we will be in touch when your application goes to the state board in a few months after all of the charter applications are completed their review with CSAB. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Right on time.
All right, before lunch, I'll just say goodbye, y'all, and I'll see you again soon. Y'all keep.
Bye, Stephen.
Miss you already. Bye.
All right, we will reconvene at 12:45 to begin our last interview of the day.
Oh.